FGM, or female genital mutilation. Please note that some of the images you are about to witness are extremely graphic, though being used for educational purposes.
According to the World Health Organization, female genital mutilation, or FGM, comprises all procedures that involve partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. 200 million girls and women are believed to have been subjected to FGM. It continues to increase predominantly in Africa. There are different types of FGM. Type 1, clitoridectomy, removing part or all of the clitoris. Type 2, excision, removing part or all of the clitoris and the inner labia with or without removal of the labia majora. Type 3, infibulation, narrowing of the vaginal opening by creating a seal, forms by cutting and repositioning the labia. And type 4, all other harmful procedures to the female genitalia for non-medical purposes, such as pricking, piercing, scraping, and etc.
There are different degrees of FGM. Before the procedure, the female genitals look like this. Type 1 is removing part or all of the clitoris. Type 2 goes further and also removes the inner labia and sometimes the labia majora. And type 3 is a narrowing of the vaginal opening by cutting and repositioning the labia.
Type 1s and type 2 are common. There are no health benefits to this practice. It has serious implications for the sexual and reproductive health of girls and women. There are short-term and long-term consequences. Short-term examples such as severe pain, severe bleeding, various infections such as urine infection or wound infection, bladder retention, meaning an inability to completely empty the bladder. Bleeding and the infection can be severe enough to cause death. And the long-term effects of FGM are complications during childbirth, scar formation, hypersensitivity of the genital area, increased risk of HIV transmission, and psychological effects. FGM is carried out during infancy, as early as a couple of days after birth. In others, it takes place during childhood, at the time of marriage, during a woman's first pregnancy, or after the birth of her first child. With most, FGM carries out on girls between the ages of 0 and 15 years old. FGM is predominantly in sub-Saharan Africa. It is also practiced in select countries in Asia, Eastern Europe, and Latin America. Why is it practiced? The reasons given for practicing FGM generally fall into 5 categories. Psychosexual reasons. FGM is carried out as a way to control women's sexuality, which is sometimes said to be uncontrollable if parts of the genitalia are not removed. It is thought to ensure virginity before marriage and fidelity afterward, and to increase male sexual pleasure. Sociological and cultural reasons. FGM is seen as part of a girl's initiation into womanhood, and as a natural part of a community's cultural heritage. Sometimes myths about female genitalia perpetuate the practice. Myths such as that a uncut clitoris will grow to the size of a penis, or that FGM will enhance fertility or promote child survival. There are hygiene and aesthetic reasons as well. In some communities, the external female genitalia are considered dirty and ugly and are removed, apparently to promote hygiene and aesthetic appeal. There are religious reasons. Although FGM is not endorsed by either Islam or by Christianity, supposed religious doctrine is often used to justify the practice. And lastly, there are socioeconomic factors. In many communities, FGM is a prerequisite for marriage. Where women are largely dependent on men, economic necessity can be a major driver of the procedure. FGM sometimes is a prerequisite for the right to inherit. It may also be a major income source for practitioners. The practice of FGM fits within the definition of discrimination against women as set forth in various human rights instruments, as a practice exclusively directed towards women and girls with the effect of interfering with their enjoyment of their fundamental rights. Article 2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states, "Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex." The right to physical integrity includes the right to freedom from torture, inherent dignity of the person, the right to liberty and security of the person, and the right to privacy. Articles 3, 5, and 12 relate to this context. Article 3 states that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of a person, while Article 5 states that no one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. And Article 12 protects an individual's privacy. Articles 7, 8, and 28 are also important articles that relate to the problems of FGM. Article 7 states that all are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law, which relates to Article number 2. Article 8 declares that everyone has the right to an effective remedy by competent national tribunals for acts violating the fundamental rights granted him by the Constitution or by law. And 28 states that everyone is entitled to a social and international order in which the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration can be fully realized. Article 25 guarantees the right to a minimum standard of living, including adequate health care and protection of motherhood.
Fatima is the same age as Lana and has 4 children. As someone who wants her own, Lana wants to know about childbirth.
Is your husband there? Was there a lot of blood? They cut you with a knife? Why? If a woman can die during childbirth, why does it still happen? Are you going to do it to your daughters? Did you do it yourself? How old are girls when they get it done? Does it hurt when it's done? No. 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 Haba, what do you think of the fact that this doesn't happen in my country? But would it not be better to not see your children, your daughters, in pain and to not run the risk of dying in childbirth?
What has been done to address this situation? A lot of organizations are fighting against FGM. Organizations like the Kenya Women Parliament Association, with support from UNICEF Joint Program, is using education to help people understand that forced female genital mutilation is a violation of human rights. This has contributed to an increase in communities abandoning the practice. Save the Children is working to shift the social norms that sustain the practices of FGM. They do this by empowering women and girls with education and access to income, as well as increased access to sexual and reproductive information and services. V-Day is a global movement to end violence against women. Through their campaign 1 Billion Rising, the organization supports several safe houses in Kenya. There, women are taught about self-reliance. Equality Now helps protect women and girls from FGM, as well as providing legal protections for the victims. Countries with laws or regulations against FGM include Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Ghana, United Kingdom, Guinea, Sudan, Sweden, and the United States. Canada, France, and the United Kingdom also have existing laws against assault and child abuse that cover FGM. Treaty monitoring bodies such as the CEDAW Committee, the Committee on the Rights of the Child, the Committee Against Torture, and the Human Rights Committee have addressed FGM in their reports to specific governments and recommended actions that can be feasibly taken to help end this harmful practice. The United Nations has made special recommendations to governments in countries where FGM is common and recommended specific actions to help eradicate FGM, whether legislative or programs to combat this practice. Women who have experienced FGM are speaking out about it and advocating for change. My two sisters, myself, and our mother went to visit our family back home. I assumed we were going for a holiday. A bit later, they told us that we were going to be infibulated. The day before our operation was due to take place, another girl was infibulated and she died because of the operation. We were so scared and didn't want to suffer the same fate, but our parents told us it was an obligation, so we went. We fought back. We really thought we were going to die because of the pain. You have one woman holding your mouth so you won't scream, two holding your chest, and the other two holding your legs. After we were infibulated, we had rope tied across our legs, so it was like we had to learn to walk again. We had to try to go to the toilet. If you couldn't pass water in the next 10 days, something was wrong. We were lucky, I suppose. We gradually recovered and didn't die like the other girl, but the memory and the pain never really went away. Zainab, who was infibulated at the age of 8. 15-year-old Mieza remembers, in her village there was one girl who was younger than I am, who has not been cut, because I discussed the issues with her parents. I told them how much the operation had hurt me and how it had traumatized me and made me not trust my own parents. They decided they did not want this to happen to their daughter. A woman from Ethiopia said, I will never subject my child to FGM if she happens to be a girl, and I will teach her the consequences of the practice early on. What needs to happen to influence the perpetrator to stop, and how likely is this violation to end in the near future? This topic needs to be recognized by the public. FGM must be recognized as a human rights violation. Governments can do something about it. The practice of FGM is often a deeply rooted custom in areas where the practice is required or prevalent. There is a substantial amount of pressure to undergo FMG. Often it's a prerequisite to marriage and required for acceptance within the community. Governments enacting legislation to prohibit the practice must acknowledge that not undergoing FGM may also subject women to further discrimination as they are ostracized or not able to marry. As such, governments must address the larger issues of women's status in the family and economy, their access to education, health services, and the overall social norms and customs that support the practice of FGM. Everyone can contribute to the fight against this cruel ritual. Talk about this topic with your friends, your family, in order to mobilize more forces. Spread the message and point out that urgent action must be taken. The most important task is to create awareness. Support organizations that are committed in this fight with your donation or your engagement. This way, you can directly help the women affected, protect the ones at risk, and contribute to change the mentalities of people responsible for these actions.